I can tell it's been a while since I've played this. It's been about a week, actually, because this is the third time I'm recording this. The first time I had the mute button on my microphone hit and didn't go. And rather than dub, I said, okay, we'll do it again. And in doing it again, when I was going through the transfers, I went back a year. And instead of doing this year's transfers, did last year's transfers. So, it's been a bit of a day. But that said, the teams looked around and said Real high-end won the Liga. They beat Barcelona. They toppled Barcelona. Was it their tactics? No. Was it their coach? Maybe. But we think it was his players. So we're going to do what we can to buy every single one of them. My name's FM20. It's time to get real. So this over here is nice to see. Barcelona had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Had a decade's worth of dominance, and we finally toppled them last year, although frankly it took a little bit of help on their part because they did not have the best season. And that's after they spent a ton of money on a defensive back line that did absolutely nothing to help them win. I mean, they came in second, and I believe... Nope, Jurgen's still there. Jurgen will be there for a long time. He's got 5 league wins and 4 cup wins, for crying out loud. Finishing in second place isn't going to get him fired. Not in FM, anyways. In real life, maybe. So, going to the transfer players, we only released one player, Alberto Garrido, who was a goalkeeper. He'd been with us for a while. He came through one of the youth intakes, and he was just never going to be a La Liga starter. I had him on the under-19s, had him on the Real B squad. He was a body, and I let him go, and nobody picked him up, so, that kind of tells you what happened there. On the freeze, Benjamin Pinedo, who is also a youth player, was part of a youth intake and was never, ever going to get better. I let him go, and he got picked up by Pontevedra. Juan Luis Valero, who was a defensive center back, again, a youngster who was never going to get any better. I let him go. He got contracted by Tenerife. On the ends, Gautier Zamble, a 19-year-old striker. I'll be honest with you, he's a body. He's 1.5-star current ability, 3-star potential ability. I needed some depth. Actually, I needed a couple starters on my U19 squad, and he was the best available. He's not costing us a ton of money. There's a couple of teams that want him out on loan. He started out in PSG, and this isn't good for us. It's not good for PSG. Physically, he's solid. Mentally and technically, he is just not there. The dribbling, the finishing, the first touch is nice. The technique is nice. The 17 flair is fabulous, but the 2 bravery and 3 determination and 3 positioning means he can't really utilize any of that to good effect. And then Denis Falkovsky is the goalkeeper I picked up on a free, 28 years old, Ukrainian international, solid, 2-star current ability, 2-star potential ability. I let my other keeper go because he didn't want to be here, and I needed someone who was a dude and was just happy being an emergency dude, and he was more than happy to be that dude. He's one of those guys, I've said this before with other keepers I've brought in. I wouldn't trust him a full season, but I'd trust him for 4 or 5 games, maybe 6. And then, FM being FM threw a monkey wrench into that. I'll show you that here in just a minute, but that may actually end up in our favor. On the loan deals, we haven't loaned anybody in. We've loaned a lot of players out. Victor Aquaro, who is now 20 years old and a midfielder, went out to Stade Rennais to get some first-team playing time. Romer de Decker, my young 17-year-old Belgian, went to Racing Club de Ferrol for first-team playing time. All these guys are getting first-team playing time. Illes Navarro, my defensive center back with potential. He's at Cultural Leonesa. Blanco, another midfielder, he's out. I don't know why his arrows are going down. He's out at Hercules. Robert Tasevsky, my left back of the future, possibly. We've got a couple things going on there. He is out on loan. Tim Bish, another midfielder. I didn't really see him getting starting time here. He's a fringe player, and it seems to happen every save. I always go all in on one position, whether I need them or not. In this save, it's midfielders. I see a midfielder with potential that plays a position that knows a position I like really well, like box-to-box midfielder. I pick him up. He's got 2.5-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. He's 21 years old. Another year or two, he could possibly see that, but I've got a lot of good young youth players who are just as good as or better than him. So chances are what I will probably do is move him on for money. Seeing as how I brought him in for 3.5 from Leipzig, I think I can get that much. And if this transfer window is any indication, maybe some of the behind-the-scenes financial stuff has kind of worked itself out. John Christian Kwaku, Ahmed Adel, John Luis Seca, Moreno Ajayi, Ibanez, Kostan Dinovic, Martin Olsen, Jaroslav Plotek. They all went out on loan. A couple of these guys are guys I actually brought in this season with the promise that I would send them out on development loans. So now we get to the big money, the cash and clause transfers. And we've actually made a profit. And that's after we spent 187 million euros. We're going to go through the outs here. I'm going to sort by total. First out, Incensio Rodriguez. He was an advanced midfielder. I love an enganche. I have a formation I love to play where the enganche is integral to it, but I've yet to play it in the last two FMs because I tend to go by what my personnel is, and then I kind of stick to that tactic. I'll experiment. I mean, I've played the 4-2-4 almost all of this save, but I've broken out a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3 and that a couple other times. But usually I just find a formation that seems to work and get the players to fit the formation. So, and Sergio Rodriguez just didn't have a future here. 1.5-star current ability, 3-star potential ability. Played a position I don't really play. And even as a midfielder, I have a ton of midfielders who are better than him. So I put him out to see if he could get picked up, and Tarragona picked him up for 99,000 euros. Santiago Nunez, who was my prior backup keeper, wanted more playing time. He was on an emergency backup contract here. I put him out. I had a year left on his contract. I didn't want to re-sign him, and Perugia picked him up to be a backup. Keon Ambrose, my defensive left back, defensive right back, and all-around yellow card machine when he kind of played. Can I look at that here real quick? Keon Ambrose just wasn't happy with the playing time, and frankly, I've got younger, better players. I brought him on to be a mentor and a couple of other things, and he just... It was a bad buy. We lost money on him. He's 2-star current ability, 2-star potential ability. We brought him in for 7.75. We sold him for 6. So while we lost a little bit of money, it wasn't a lot of money. It's not like when Newcastle paid 20 million for him back in the day. Leeds United, for whatever reason, has made the Premier League, and they went on an absolute spending spree. Lee Norris, who was a defensive midfielder and my backup defensive center back, 3-star current ability, 3.5-star potential ability, solid defensive center back. They made an offer for him, and he wanted to go. He wanted Premier League football, and I said sure. He wanted to go back. We got him from Arsenal for 8.75. We turned around and sold him for 26.5, and that's fine. He didn't get a lot of playing time here last year. He was a backup, and he wanted to be a starter. So far he's a starter for Leeds United. And then Jan Reznicek. Leeds made an unsolicited offer for him. He totally jumped at it. And Israel is turning into a very good advanced midfielder on the right, so I didn't have a huge problem letting him go. 2-star current ability, 2.5-star current ability rather, 3-star potential ability, but 27 years old. So he's agile, he's still pacey, he's got great technique, he's a good dribbler, great crosser. And he set the assist record here, and then Israel broke it. He had one season, this season here, his second season here, he had a phenomenal season, 31 appearances, 9 goals, 16 assists, 2 players of the match, 7.37 rating. For a guy we picked up for 72,000 euros from Mlada Boleslav in the Sinat Liga, which is Slavia Praha, the Czech league. And then we moved him for 36, for 26.5 million euros to a okay Leeds United team. They were in the Premier League. They got sent back down to the Championship. Now they're back in the Premier League again. So they've got all that Premier League money burning a hole in their pocket, and that's what they're doing. So they spent 52.5 million euros on 2 of my players. And frankly, the 2 players they bought weren't exactly starters for me. William Benvenuti, on the other hand, was a starter for me. PSG came, and he said, I want to go to PSG. And this is something that's happened in I've only been playing FM since FM17, but this has been happening every single game. You'll take a team, a lower league team, and you'll get them up to the Premier League level or whatever league you're in. My first save was used on Dunkirk. I got them to Ligue 1. Then it was Enfield Town, and I took them from the Vanarama to the Premier League. But what happens is that as you climb, your reputation doesn't climb with you, and you have to be in that top league for a few good years before your reputation even comes close to the PSGs, the Bayerns, the Manchesters, anything like that. I had a guy in my Dunkirk save who was a young striker. He would have been one of the top 5 players. He was on a max contract with me. He was happy. He'd scored a ton of goals. He'd won a lot of awards. And Bayern Munich came, and he was all over it. I want to go to Bayern Munich. I want to go to Bayern Munich. I want to go to Bayern Munich. And this was after we'd beaten PSG for the 3rd year in a row. And it was just, I had to let him go. No, I didn't have to let him go. I actually signed him to a new contract with I ended up redoing his contract with a huge incentive for appearances. I mean, his weekly salary was like 200,000 euros because that's the max the board would allow at the time. But his appearance fee was like 75,000 euros. And in weeks we were making he was playing 2 and 3 games sometimes. He was making a ton of money. But eventually got to the point where big teams started coming from my good players. And I would say, no, he's not interested. And the players wouldn't pitch a fit. But in this case, he really wanted to go. I asked if he wanted to stay, how much money would it take for him to stay? He said, no, I really want to go. So Benvenuti ends up going to PSG for 31 million euros. 3-star current ability, 3-star potential ability, 22 years old, solid defensive center back. One of those guys you can stick in the defensive center back field and he will do a good job. We picked him up for 150,000 from Cosenza and turned around and sold him for 31 million. So it's a good deal. That's a good save for us. And then Daniel Pagano, Barcelona came asking for him. And normally I don't let players go to a team in the same league, but Pagano, I am more than happy to let go. He's 3-star current ability, 3-star potential ability. He's a squad player, which means he'll be squatting with Mahmoud, who was the defensive left back he replaced, who also went to Barcelona. He was solid for us. He had a couple of seasons where he had some decent assists, but he was also a yellow card machine. 10 there, 10 there. I have better younger options that I need to get first team playing time. So we bought him for 24.5 million. We moved him for 50. So it's definitely, we did better than Bayern did. That's for sure. And then Bjorn Van Horn. This is another case where another team made an unsolicited offer and the player jumped all over it. Bjorn Van Horn was one of those aforementioned midfielders that I'd been collecting. 3-star current ability, 5-star potential ability. He's 19 years old. He will definitely see that 5-star potential. He gets a lot of first team playing time. And I had plans for him. He was going to be my starting midfielder at the box-to-box midfielder position, paired with Malo at the deep line playmaker. And Man City came in and made the offer for him, and he jumped all over it. I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. What will it take to keep you here? Nope, I want to go to Man City. So he went to Man City for 51 million euros for a guy we brought in for 12 million from the Czech Republic. That's a good deal. And he had a solid season for us last year. 29 appearances, 15 starts, 14 off the bench, 1 goal, 5 assists, a 7.07 rating as a 19-year-old in La Liga. He's got a bright future ahead of him. Actually, what I need to do, keep history after retirement. So he has yet to play for Man City, though. On the ins, we spent money this year. And it's one of those cases where I've got a ton in the bank, and I don't feel the need to... 4 or 5 years ago, I would have gone through and said, oh, they wanted 25 million for this guy. Well, I'll pay you 15 million now and 10 million in bonuses that he may or may not get. But now, we've got still 166. We've still got 166 million euros in the transfer budget. I've still got 500,000 euros of wiggle room to play with on the wage budget. We are not hurting by any stretch of the imagination. Our overall balance is 300 million plus euros. So we're doing okay there. Carl Hurst is the first in from QPR. I needed a solid backup at striker who was also versatile, and he fits the bill. 2-star current ability, 3-star potential ability, good false 9, decent complete forward rather, decent advanced forward. Physically, he is solid. Mentally, he is solid where it counts. The 9 determination is me quibbling that it's not a 10 or higher, but it's not new red. I'm happy with that. Technically, he's a little weak in a couple areas. The 11 crossing is a bit low. The 15 dribbling is nice, but the 10 finishing is a bit but he doesn't look to knock the ball past the opponent. He looks for the pass rather than the score. So he's a guy I can stick on the bench and he can fill in at 3 positions, and I'm more than happy with that. And he had a couple okay seasons at QPR. Started out on Liverpool, didn't do anything for them. Went to QPR, 7-39, 11-41. So he's here as a squad player. He knows he's here as a squad player. And for $8 million, I don't think that you're throwing good money after a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. Joseph Anich. He is my older defensive left back. He's now the primary backup there. Solid physically, solid mentally. Technically, the crossing's low, the dribbling's bad, at least what I think for this position. But the marking, the tackling, the technique more than make up for it. Plus his teamwork, his positioning, and his work rate also help. Decision-making, concentration also high. Anticipation's good. Physically, he's a good jumper, and he's a decent header. So I've had to rework my corner routines to kind of get him a little bit in the box more. I mean, he's 6 foot, 385 pounds. So that's who we're aiming the ball towards. He's really kind of moved around. He was at Zagreb for a while, and then he has been on a history of the world. He went to Sociedad, and that's where I remember. I mean, his name stood out for a reason. And was okay there. Then moved to Atalanta, wasn't okay there. Newcastle got barely 3 starts, so Newcastle didn't get their money. And they actually lost a little bit when they turned around and sold him to us. But he'll definitely get some playing time here, and I think he'll do a good job for us. Romain Spender from TSG Hoffenheim. He is my replacement for Benvenuti. 2.5-star current ability, 2.5-star potential ability. If I was to compare him to Benvenuti, who I just saw, they are very, very similar. Benvenuti's a little faster, a little more physical, but Spender's a better attacker and a better defender. He's not as good in the air, but at that point you're quibbling. And he's making more than Benvenuti. That's okay. But I can afford that. But I also like him because he is also versatile and he can play the defensive left back and defensive right back position. Solid physically, mentally, 16 decision making, 20 determination, 13 bravery, 13 composure, 14 decision making, or 14 concentration, 15 positioning, 14 tackling, 14 heading, or 11 heading, 14 marking rather. Good jumper as well. So he's gonna step in and be an adequate replacement for Benvenuti. Irakli Krmishvili is from Sochaux Montbéliard. He is part of a golden generation they had. We bought him straight up for 37 million euros because he was transfer listed by request. 19 years old, 2.5-star current ability, 4-star potential ability. He is possibly my defensive left back of the future, especially if Broderman doesn't pan out. I think Broderman could pan out, but this is one of those things where if I buy him now and get him a decent amount of playing time, I know I can definitely make my money back. 19 years old, he is already this solid physically. Mentally, he is close to being off the charts, I think, for a player in this position. 17 anticipation, 17 concentration, 16 decision-making, 17 positioning, 19 teamwork. Technically, he needs to get better in a couple areas. The crossing at 12 is nice, though, as is the 13 first touch. 13 marking, 14 tackling, 17 passing, 16 technique. He'll be my fullback on the left. I've got him on support now, but actually what I need to do is put him on the attack, darn it, and work on his dribbling. Ball control. He's definitely a risk. He's had some niggling injuries over his career, and this is probably the riskiest trade I've made so far in the save. We're going to skip Ryan Bates. We're going to come back to Ryan Bates because Carlos Roberto is the big money guy this year. With Matasevic leaving and some depth issues, I wanted a quality replacement. Carlos Roberto was transfer listed by request by Barcelona, and I figured I gave him Mahmoud and Pagano. They can give me back a really good striker, and Carlos Roberto is a really good striker. 4-star current ability, 4-star potential ability, physically can run up and down the field all day. Mentally, good anticipation, good composure, good decision making, good off the ball, good determination. Yeah, the work rate's a bit on the average side, but that's okay. Good dribbler, good finisher, excellent technique, decent passer, runs with the ball through the center, doesn't dive into tackles, tries first-time shots, runs with the ball often. He's played one game for us. He's had one goal. He's definitely definitely a very good pairing with Maria. So Juve came in and made an unsolicited offer to Laszlo Seferovic. And I turned it down, and he didn't exactly pitch a fit. He got upset that I wouldn't let him talk. And at the time, my only backup was the keeper I picked up on a free. And then 3 days before the transfer window closed, Ryan Bates was transfer listed by request by SC Freiburg. And the only reason I noticed that was because he was on my short list. Because 3 years ago, when he came out, my scout in Germany found him. 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential ability, here on a backup contract. Physically, he's solid. Mentally, he is absolutely fabulous. 17 concentration, 16 positioning, 16 teamwork, 16 vision, 12 determination is nice. Aerial reach is nice. Handling is great. Reflexes is great. The rushing out is a bit on the low side, but I think that's okay because he's a goalkeeper. He's not a sweeper keeper. First touch is a bit on the low side, but again, 19 years old. And if I was to compare him to Seferovic, he's better than him mentally and speed-wise and aerially, but they are very close almost everywhere else. He's also 4 years younger. And as you can see up here, he's still wanted, but Lazo is still wanted by Juve. So come the spring, if Juve wants Lazo, I'm more than happy to let him go. I think I could get a ton of money for him. He's valued at 8.25. Juve's original offer, I want to say, was around 30 or something like that, but I know I can bump that up. And with Bates sitting on the bench waiting to step up, that's not a huge drop-off by any stretch of the imagination. Schedule-wise, we are off to a really good start. The friendlies went really, really well. No major injuries. The one kind of blip was the Osasuna draw, but that was a rotated side. Verdonk actually came on in the second half. Other than that, it was just a lot of smackdowns. Our first big game of La Liga was against Sporting. Malo had a goal. Roberto had a goal 2 minutes apart. 19 shots, 11 on target. We were just up in their half of the field all day. They were doing this weird 5-2-2-1 formation that I hadn't really seen before. It was 5 defensive center backs, 2 midfielders, 2 advanced midfielders, and a striker, but they played really far back, and we just took advantage of them in the middle. And then, well, this has gone about 25 minutes after editing. It'll probably be about 20 or so. So we're not going to do the live comment or anything like that. I want to say, are we up to the draw? No. Let's check something out here. Yeah, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do Barcelona. We'll show the Champions League group stage draw, and then we'll play Malaga next game, which is going to start recording about 5 minutes after this one. And we'll go from there. So maybe a little short episode, but... Oh, here's a free transfer coming in. Ricardo Hernandez, he's joining 2033. He's just a youth player. Future transfer. But not the busiest. Well, okay, let me just show everything. It was actually kind of a busy transfer. It was actually kind of a busy transfer window. It took a decent amount of time to get through. We sold a lot of players. We bought more than a few players, but I think it's some very good money well spent. We didn't weaken the team, and I think we're set up to be very, very good. Verdonk is going to be part of the rotation with Roberto and Maria up top at striker. Boyce is the third or fourth back up there. Israel's on the right. Carlos Roberto can play there. I need a young right advanced midfielder for the moment. It's Carlos Roberto and the new guy we brought in, whose name I'm totally blanking on. Carl Hurst, yeah. Tollefson's on the left. My midfield's solid. I got Antonio Augusto. Mala's there. Mussolini's there. Havranic's there. Slimanu is kind of up in the air at the moment. He is he's my best ball winning midfielder at the midfield, but he's got potential to be a very good defensive right back. It's the crossing and dribbling and stuff like that I have to work on. So he's training on that. He's going to get game time there. Broderson is actually going to be my starter at defensive left back. Kermishvili and him are going to be switching out all season. Anich, probably Anich is the primary backup. Uche and Stevic are my starting defensive center backs, and there will be plenty of rotation going on there as well. And then, is it Spender? Spender might be getting some time at defensive right back too. It's one of those cases where it's probably the least settled position on the field, which is not exactly a good thing when you think about it. Slimani is probably going to see the most amount of playing time there. Uche can play there, but I'd rather have him be at defensive center back where he's a better player. So that's what's going on. It was a busy transfer window. I am looking forward to this season. It's the 14th at high end. I don't know exactly how many more we're going to get. The stated goals of the save were to win La Liga, which we did last year, and win the Champions League. And good grief, I really want to get past the first knockout round this year. And I want to try and win the Copa del Rey too. We were in the finals last year and gave the old college try, but fell short. So that said, I'd be interested in your feedback on the transfer window. I'd be interested in what you think of my positional breakdown, as short as it was. If you want a more in-depth look at that, we can do that a couple episodes down the road. But if you did like what you've seen and heard, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content. Questions, criticism, comments, leave those down below. I will answer those as fast as I can. My name is FM20.